In this video, I'm going to discuss some of the underlying issues associated with the question, are there only two genders? And try to provide some clarity as to what those who adopt a more traditional view of gender might mean when they assert that there are only two genders. On the one hand, the claim there are only two genders could be a semantic or conceptual claim. As a semantic or conceptual claim, this would mean that our gender terms man and woman are the only terms that are in use, or are the only gender terms that express meaningful concepts. Whether or not these are the only gender terms in use is an empirical question that can easily be answered. We just need to determine whether gender terms other than man and woman are being used in common by speakers. It is also worth pointing out that restricting our gender terms to man and woman is compatible with trans men being men, trans women being women, and is also compatible with individuals being non-gendered or genderqueer. For example, let's examine the term mammal. We use the term mammal to refer to things that typically have certain types of features. Mammals are the sorts of things that are warm-blooded, are vertebrates, give birth to live young, have fur, and the females produce milk through mammary glands. There are several different things that in the world are picked out by the term mammal. Dogs, dolphins, bats, and humans, among others. But not all things that are picked out by the term mammal have all of the relevant features that we typically associate with mammals. It is also the case that things we classify as mammals have features in common with other non-mammalian animals as well. Given this, it would be a mistake to think that the common features we associate with mammals constitutes a set of strict conditions, meaning a set of individually necessary and jointly sufficient conditions that something must have in order to be a mammal. This would mean that something is only a mammal if it has all of those features, but we still pick things out as mammals that do not possess all of the identifiable features that things classified as mammals possess. And some of those features that we associate with being a mammal are also possessed by non-mammalian animals as well. So, what we have here is a useful binary. Everything can be classified as either a mammal or a non-mammal, but it's also the case that our concept of mammal is indeterminate. The term mammal has vague boundaries since there are borderline cases. If you don't believe me, keep in mind that we classify the duck-billed platypus as a mammal, even though the platypus does not give birth to live young, does not produce milk through mammary glands, and has features in common with non-mammalian animals. So, what lessons can we take from the nature of our language based on these examples? The first lesson is that semantic and conceptual binaries are compatible with there being borderline cases. The fact that we use binary terms or conceptual frameworks does not mean that the facts in the world directly correspond to our binaries. Secondly, our inability to specify strict conditions for when a term applies and doesn't apply does not render our terms or concepts meaningless. I know that I am a bald person. I fully accept that fact. But if you were to ask me to provide the strict conditions for baldness, I would not even know where to begin to give you an answer. I have no idea what the determinate number of hairs is that is sufficient and necessary for being non-bald. In fact, no one knows what the number is, or even if there is such a number. However, our concepts of bald, non-bald, and balding are still meaningful even though those concepts have vague boundaries. The third lesson is that our continued use of semantic and conceptual binaries, despite the difference of borderline cases, is a matter of convention or pragmatics. We find it useful to continue using binary terms and conceptual frameworks for our purposes, but again, it doesn't follow that our terms and frameworks exhaustively correspond to the facts in the world. Now, perhaps individuals who assert that there are only two genders are making a metaphysical claim, meaning every person either is determinately a man or is determinately a woman, and this strict binary directly corresponds to the facts in the world, or carves reality at the joints, as metaphysicians often say. If this strict gender binary does directly correspond to the facts in the world, this would mean not only that there are strict conditions for being a man and being a woman, but it would also mean that there are not any borderline cases of manhood and womanhood. Everyone either is a man or a woman, and it is never vague whether someone is a man or a woman. Individuals who affirm a strict and determinate gender binary typically refer to biological facts to make their case. So we can construct an argument in favor of a strict and determinate gender binary in the following way. Premise 1. Every person is either determinately male or is determinately female. Biological facts concerning sex are strictly binary and determinate. Premise 2. If gender is grounded in biology, then given that biological facts concerning sex are strictly binary and determinate, gender is strictly binary and determinate. Premise 3. Gender is grounded in biology. 4. So, gender is strictly binary and determinate. Premise 5. If gender is strictly binary and determinate, then every person is either determinately a man or is determinately a woman. 6. Therefore, every person is either determinately a man or is determinately a woman. So how could someone that is skeptical of this kind of argument respond? Keep in mind that if the facts concerning biological sex are strict and determinate, then there are no borderline cases of biological sex. But therein lies the problem. There are borderline cases of biological sex. Here is a selective list of various intersex conditions. Regardless of which biological facts you point to, whether it be chromosomes, reproductive powers, hormones, genitalia, or phenotypes and other bodily features that we associate with passing as a member of a particular sex, there are borderline cases for every one of those sets of biological facts. Here, a critic might respond, well, those cases are incredibly rare. Most people are either determinately male or determinately female. However, this claim, even if it is true, is beside the point. If biological sex were determinate, then there would be no borderline cases of biological sex. So, at least one borderline case is enough to show that biological sex is not determinate. Another criticism might be that we still use the terms male and female for individuals that are intersex. This is certainly true, but remember that this is simply a fact about our conventions or what we deem pragmatic. Intersex individuals are often raised as members of a particular sex and often identify with a particular gender. But that is a matter of norms, behaviors, and expectations that individuals are conditioned to accept. Also remember that binary terms and conceptual frameworks are nevertheless compatible with biological sex being indeterminate. So the individual who wants to defend a strict and determinate gender binary on the basis of biology therefore faces this inconsistent set. 1. Gender is grounded in biology. 2. Facts about gender are strictly binary and determinate, meaning everyone is determinately a man or determinately a woman. 3. Facts about biological sex either are not strictly binary or are indeterminate. Since this is an inconsistent set, the truth of any two claims implies that the remaining claim is false. Claim 3 is safe, since it is supported by the best empirical evidence that we have available. So far as we can tell, there are borderline cases of biological sex. So, the individual who defends this perspective would either need to reject the first claim or reject the second claim. If the individual wants to accept that there is a strict and determinate gender binary, then they must reject the claim that gender is grounded in biology. And if they want to accept that gender is grounded in biology, then they need to reject the claim that facts about gender are strictly binary and determinate. I should point out that nothing I have said here implies that gender is not strictly binary or is indeterminate. For all we know, the facts that ground gender could be strictly binary and determinate. The only point I am making is that a strict and determinate gender binary cannot be grounded in biology. So, an individual who wants to defend a strict and determinate gender binary needs to point to some other set of facts other than the biological facts. However, it is not the job of those of us that are skeptical of a strict and determinate gender binary to speculate on what that alternative set of facts could be. Now, individuals like Charlie Kirk, Matt Walsh, Ben Shapiro, and others who push for a strict and determinate gender binary on the basis of biology commonly say that those who disagree either don't understand basic biology or ignore the clear biological facts, but this is really not an accurate criticism. The claim being made is that the biological facts do not tell us what Kirk, Walsh, Shapiro, and others think the facts tell us. This claim fully acknowledges the biological facts and appreciates that the biological facts are much more complex than how a traditional gender binary typically treats them.